Welcome to Financial Planning Explained. I'm your host, Mike Menninger, certified financial planner, owner and founder of Menninger Associates Financial Planning. I'm here with my operations manager, Andres Maldonado. And Andres, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Glad to be here.
Wow. So this is a weird one. I feel awkward doing this, but it was recommended to us by others. It was like, let's peel back the onion. Let's get to know Mike Menninger. So I'm not good at sitting here just talking about myself. So Andres actually pulled together a handful of questions that he's going to ask me to get to know me. I'm a simple creature. I keep trying to tell my wife I am a simple creature. Just feed me and I'm happy.
You're a simple creature if you're fed, but I want to know what created that creature, So take me back. Where did you grow up and just what was your childhood like, an everyday little pre-CFP Mike?
All right. As a kid, once upon a time, I grew up in upstate New York. We always call it upstate.
Anything that's not Manhattan.
Right, exactly. Because it was at the time that New York City was about to go bankrupt. And my father used to always say, you need to cut off New York City and float it out to sea. They're dragging down the rest of the state. So, but anyway, I grew up in upstate New York, suburbs, an hour and a half north. It's Kingston, hour and a half north. And my childhood, I have one brother and an extremely small family. Both of my parents were only children, so I have no true aunts, uncles, first cousins, or anything. My father's from Germany and my mother's from Germany, so
that's why you got the associates.
Yeah, right. So, as a kid, I was involved in mostly stuff that was boys related. We had lots of boys in the neighborhood, lots of kids in the neighborhood. Playing sports, soccer, football, wiffle ball, baseball, you name it. We're playing it every single day.
Yeah.
I was part of Boy Scouts, played sports, baseball and ran track and cross country. And, almost everything I did was running around playing sports, but mostly with boys. So kind of just grew up being a guy's kind of guy.
Yeah. And to be honest, it transitioned well because you attended the Naval Academy, which that wasn't that
basically all boys.
All boys anyway.
90%.
So what made you want to go in that direction for the Naval Academy?
Well,
apart from other schools.
Interesting. Because at the time, you figure it was the early 1980s. I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do.
But most people, to be fair,
right.
That's most people.
I had no idea what I wanted to do. My brother had gone there. He was 3 years ahead of me, so it was pretty impressive. Every time I went down there, it was a pretty impressive place. And not only that, but I don't remember what the job market was at that time. I can't really recall. But I do know that you were guaranteed a job upon graduation. And so while I'd love to say that I was gung-ho and wanted to be in the military, it was a little bit more from the personal perspective. I knew I was getting a top-notch education, and I knew I was going to be guaranteed a job. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And quite honestly, I also knew I could use some discipline.
So what would you say was the highlight of the naval school? Like, what are some crazy stories that maybe came out of it? Well, we had to boil it down into this smaller segment, but what are some of those stories?
Oh, I couldn't even stop. There's hours of stories. I joke to this day and say 4 years of prison. Yeah, I spent 4 years in prison. I love talking to the ladies. Just like when you're dating, and I spent 4 years in prison, and you just keep talking. We just wait for them to, the look on their face.
Wait a second.
It was a very difficult time, particularly your first year and in your first summer. So one of the things I did learn later is the reason why they make life so difficult is because they put you under pressure cooker, just absolute constant pressure, because they say if you're on the bridge of a ship and all of a sudden something breaks out in front of you, they want to know that you can handle the pressure.
Yeah. That's why you train more than the real thing.
Right.
Right. That
goes with everything.
Intent. Correct. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the sleep deprivation you experienced.
4 years of sleep deprivation too. And I know I told you this story before, but there were times that I would leave class, and classes were so structured. Everything was so structured there. But, if you had an exam, when you're done with your exam, you just didn't have to be to your next class. I would run, although you're not supposed to run in uniform. So I would hustle And I would get to my room, I would take my uniform, hang it up, lay down on my bed, not even get in it because I had to remake it. I'd lay on top of the bed and set my alarm for 6 minutes later, out like a light, alarm goes off, get right up, throw my uniform on, stretch the bed, bolt. Everything was down to the second there, and you knew everything, how long it took to get everywhere,
Yeah.
down to the second.
Yeah. I'm sure that sleep deprivation carried you with even after the Naval
Oh, I'm still
Academy.
tired. I'm still tired. I'm still tired.
So what was the kind of the last point of the Naval Academies? What were some of the things you learned about leadership and discipline? I mean, you always say you run a tight ship here, and I would say you do. Kind of ironic, you think so. What was some of those takeaways with that?
Um, Hard to say. I guess, when you get used to spending 4 years under, um, a tremendous amount of a tight ship is a really good way of putting it, discipline, and you have to do things a certain way.
Mhm.
But they try to teach you to become leaders.
Mm.
And one of the things that I've learned is that you learn more from a bad leader than you do from a good leader.
Yeah.
You learn what not to do, but you do learn from good leaders. I also heard someone once say, and I have a lot of little phrases, proper prior planning prevents poor performance. I came from a Marine Corps major. Is there are two types of leaders. There's a leader you'll follow into a fire,
Mhm.
and then there's the leader you'll throw into a fire.
Yes.
And, obviously you want to be the leader that you gets followed into a fire. And leadership is earned and not granted. So you can be an officer and be a higher rank, but true respect is earned
Mhm.
and not given to you because of your rank.
Yeah, and I would say that leadership has a massive carryover when it comes to professional settings and
I'm
professional
sure it does.
workplaces. So you were in engineering. What made you want to go into engineering? We'll talk about the transition afterwards, but what
Well,
was that for you? Obviously, an engineer is just problem
yeah.
solver, right? So,
Well, actually, you could be an English major at the Naval Academy. You're graduating with an engineering degree. So my major was actually oceanography. And so I had, all of the oceanography credits and had all of the engineering credits. Now, I didn't finish at the Naval Academy. I finished at another school, and I had all of my engineering credits to be an engineer. I had double majored, so I became a marine science, a degree in marine science, all but the actual degree in engineering, and a degree in chemistry, and a minor in math.
so, so you crammed those years afterwards. Essentially, is what it sounds like. How
Um,
long was your process after the Naval Academy?
2 years.
I mean, that's still a lot to double major and do all those credits.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
a small thing.
it was actually, believe it or not, the easiest thing in the world because having gone to the academy and then going to school in a private school,
Mhm.
private college, I was doing 21 credits at the private college. I worked about 50 to 60 hours a week. I taught 3 hours a day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I worked 40 to 45 hours on the weekend, had two dart leagues on one night and another night, and I had a racquetball league. And having spent 4 years in prison, I felt as though I had more free time than I ever
I was
had.
gonna say that was probably you trained here. That school was probably
That was way easy,
that's
way easy.
so. I remember you told me your attention to detail was part of the things that you bring into financial planning. So talk to me a little bit more about your transition into financial planning and how your engineering background has really lifted you up to the top as it pertains to your
Well, it's
financial
interesting.
planning.
Um, so I spent 12 years in the engineering field. Okay. It was actually environmental consulting engineering. And I was toggling on both the engineering and the sciences
Mhm.
and doing investigations. So doing investigations is actually a lot of what we do in financial planning. Little do you realize it.
Yeah.
If you really take a look at the transition from doing 12 years in the engineering field, going into financial planning, I tell people it's a 70% overlap.
Hmm.
And they look at me cross-eyed like I have two heads. And it's like, how in the world can that
Yeah, of course.
possibly
Yeah.
be? It's like, well, quite frankly, it's a systematic and analytical approach to problem solving.
Yeah.
So what's the other 30%? Well, a very small part of it is the change in the subject
The
material.
material, correct. Yeah.
But a lion's share of that 30% that's different is you're dealing with human emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's oftentimes referred to as behavioral finance, because engineering is very cut and dry, but do not underestimate the impact of emotions and behavior on people's decisions to not do things that are smart.
Yeah, correct. I would say some of that, you probably see it with clients. You probably think, hey, you should do this. And they may struggle based on some of those emotional things that they've had in the back. Yeah. Well, I remember you told me a story about you had all the codes memorized and you could, or with the wells.
Oh my
Right?
goodness.
Yes.
Well, that's a separate issue. So one of the things that I learned, apparently I had a terrific memory. I'm good that way now, as you know, with birthdays.
Yes. Yes, it's true.
But I was managing 72 project sites, and each project site was basically a gas station. Okay. Not basically, it was a gas station.
Yeah,
it was a mobile. And each gas station, we were doing the environmental investigations, the cleanups, the remediation. And each site had anywhere between 4 and a dozen wells on it. And maybe a quarter of the sites also had a remediation system on it. And you could just rifle out a name and I can tell you the address. I could draw a picture of the site. I could tell you the code that it was. Everyone had a 3-digit code. And then I can plot all of the wells, and I can tell you probably a 5 or 10 year history of all of the analytics of all the wells and everything else. It was remarkable. But what I also learned at the time is that the human mind has a finite capacity, because I remember when there was a deal between Mobil and BP, and we took on 12 project sites.
Additional to what you had.
Additional to the 72. Gotcha. I knew the 72 like the back of my hand.
They didn't just fall off. You just slapped them right on top.
Correct. Picked up 12 more. And I will tell you, I struggled learning those 12. And as I was learning those 12, I was losing some of what I already had.
Interesting.
So that was when I came to the recognition that your mind has a finite capacity.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with financial planning, but.
No. Actually, that's a great kind of segue into what I want to talk about next is, you made this shift in what most people consider a pretty drastic industry change, finance and engineering, right? And so what sparked that change, or I guess what intrigued you to want to go into financial planning?
Great question. First of all, as you know, financial planning has an affinity towards the numbers.
Yes, 100%.
2 years before I left the environmental business, I remember we had a new office manager who was very open, like I am here, with the finances of the business.
Yeah.
And so we were one of 11 offices in the company, and we were the biggest by far, double the second size. And he got up there and was sharing the results of the revenue and the profits and expenses and everything else at the end of the first quarter. And not unlike me, and normally, there's Mike raising his hand, asking questions. And I asked several questions about, hey, what about this? What about this? And then the last one was, and he didn't answer half of my questions. And the last one was, John, are you aware that we fell behind this budget this quarter, but we're going to fall further and further and further behind? We're not going to make budget this year.
Yeah, interesting.
And he didn't have an answer for me. And I stopped asking questions because I realized he didn't have the answers.
Yeah.
After the meeting was over, he called me into his office. I'm like, oh, here I am in the
smacked in the hand, right?
Here I am in the principal's office again. Not that I was ever in the principal's office.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. Yeah.
Right, just what I've heard.
Yeah.
And he pulls me in and he shuts the door. He goes, what were you talking about? I said, and I explained. He says, can you help me do this next month? I said, sure. So I did. And then he kept asking me, can you do it next month? And then towards the end of the year, he said, look, you're right. Holy cow, we fell behind budget. He said, can you help me with establishing the new budget? I said, sure.
I see the connection, yeah.
And so I did it. And then the COO, CEO, and CFO traveled from office to office to go over the budgets. And by the way, I'm not high enough up the food chain to be known as. And so they were in his office, and after about a half an hour, he had to basically fess up and said, I didn't do this. And next thing you know, I get pulled into the office with the CEO, CFO, and COO,
Yeah.
and I defended the numbers.
Mm.
And, because the history of it is, oh, you're going to make 10 million? Nope. It needs to be 12. So when they started doing it, I'm like, no, it can't be. And I gave them all
You're
the
not,
reasons
yeah.
why.
Interesting.
And they basically
Interesting.
said, all right. So but your budget, even though we made a ton of money,
Mhm.
we didn't get bonuses because we missed budget.
Interesting.
Okay.
Wow, that's
So by my doing that, I basically said, look, we ended up making budget the following year.
mm,
Um, so I got into doing a lot of the finance, and then the company, I got wind that they filed bankruptcy, and I freaked.
wow.
And when they asked me to run the numbers for our office, and I was starting to do numbers for 2 other offices, the wrong thing was I did it, and I said, Pittsburgh's going to lose money hand over fist, and Cranford's going to lose money. I saw what numbers they presented to the bank, and it said they were both going to make it. And I said, I need to get off this boat before it sinks. And it takes me with it.
Yeah. It's actually a great stopping point. We'll take
Yep.
a small break here, but I think this is going to be a great transition to really dive a little deeper, much like an engineering, ask more questions about your financial planning experience.
All right. So we'll be back with you in just a few moments.
Do you keep up regularly with your investments? Where exactly are your hard-earned dollars going? Are you financially prepared for an emergency?
I'm Mike Menninger, founder of Menninger Associates Financial Planning. We believe that education and knowledge are powerful, and we want our clients to understand why we are making the recommendations that we make. It's your money, and you deserve to know where it's going, because it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So call us today to discuss your financial concerns. Welcome back to Financial Planning Explained, as I'm getting grilled by Andres. So last we were talking, so my transition from the environmental, and you'll love this because this goes back to 2000. I literally answered an ad in the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Like the movies, with the
Financial planner. Well, today it's all online.
Yeah, today's all online. You hit a button, it sounds everywhere.
So it's the classified ads. I answered an ad for financial planner because I've been doing a lot of the business planning, and lo and behold, I got hired and did the transition. It was as soon as I passed my entry exam, which in our case was the Series 7, as soon as I passed the entry exam, literally that morning, I took the exam, got into the office, and gave my 2-week notice.
Yeah, wow.
And so, needless to say, the office manager was extraordinarily disappointed because who's going to do all of this?
Who's going to do all the work, right?
So anyway, and that was where it began. And so, cut my teeth with an insurance-based, which I wasn't a fan of because it was sell more, and keep selling more. But they were trying to cut their teeth into, this is the onset where the financial services industry was beginning to morph into doing financial planning.
Yeah.
And they were trying to be ahead of it by hiring people for financial planning. I took the job, didn't stay with that firm for very long in the earlier stages. I never really found my place until 2007 when I said, I'm done with being caught up in corporate America where management change can chop you at the knees.
Whatever, yeah.
Ownership change chops you at the knees. And that I was on the wrong end of mergers, acquisitions. And I said, I'm done with this. And I basically went independent somewhere on or around January 24th, 2007.
Do you want to speak a little bit on that and how that impacted your transition?
So, it's funny. One of the things that I can reflect on, and I know you didn't ask the question, but it's absolutely the truth, is that never realized it until probably recently when I reflected back. I've been an entrepreneur since I was a child. Now, I'll go all the way back. And I remember when I was doing it I was about 8 years old. And my father was a hobby coin collector dealer, which got me into doing the same. And I would go to the coin shows every quarter and I'd be there behind the table and everything else like that. Well, what I found myself doing is taking $50, getting a ride to the bank, give the bank $50, and I would get a bag of pennies. Okay. And they're all rolled, sit on the ping pong table and sort them.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was pulling out old Wheaties and everything else. And I'd pull about $10 worth of stuff, roll them back up, go back to the bank, give them their $40 enrolled with an extra $10, give me another $50 bag. I would then go buy, I remember bought a roll of 1909 VDB pennies that were, a roll is 50. I probably paid the equivalent of $3 each. And now I'm pulling them out. I grabbed the best one for me. And now I'm selling them for $6, $7, $8. And when I'm doing that, now I'm making money. And now I'm taking that money and buying more.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
So I'm doing this at 8 years old, 9 years old.
You were small cap growth.
So then, in my environmental days, the irony of it is about 3 months into it, I said, I can do this. This new thing, this new technology. I can do that. Let me do it, because I had the chemistry background and involved chemistry. And next thing you know, I started a business unit. Okay. I'm 22 years old and I'm running a friggin' business and I'm writing POs like this. I was usurping my authority. Trust me, I was. All right. And it built a business that I'm getting called all over the country to be going for all these projects. Did project in Ireland. That was awesome. So then I switched to another company. Okay. In the environmental field, those were two companies. Went to a second company and I saw that they had some thing going on where it was costing them about $60,000 a year for their equipment. And I'm like, why are you guys doing it this way? I created a business unit that went from costing the company $60,000 a year to making about $80,000.
Sure, they loved you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, and I wasn't getting paid for it. Which has a little bit to do with my dissatisfaction. And so I took a cost center and made it a profit center. Wow. And so being an independent really took the ability to trust yourself, to know that you can do this as a business. And trust me when I tell you, when I went from a W-2 to be an independent, go figure. I literally took every client and assigned a percentage chance that they're going to come, and how much money do I make and what's it going to cost me, because now I have to pay for an office space. I have to pay both sides of wage. I have to all kinds of things.
A lot of haircuts.
Tons of them. I said, I need to make this much. And the beauty of it is that when I moved and I moved my clients, I projected 60 to 65% to break even. Mm-hmm. I had 96% of my clients followed.
That's awesome. That's
I was
amazing.
happy about that.
Well done. Yeah. So what was the hardest part of that transition? Because I can't imagine you didn't lose a little bit of sleep when your W-2 went away.
Like the hardest part of the transition was trusting myself and trusting that I was going to get all of those clients to move over. But it worked out. The biggest transition that I really went through was going from the environmental engineering to being the financial advisor. I remember I kept all of my regulatory stuff. I kept all my project books and everything else. I said, because if I don't make it, I can go
back.
You
have backup.
Right.
It's funny.
So
it's good planning.
After 1 year, I kind of threw out a bunch of stuff. And then after 2 or 3 years, I kind of threw out a bunch of stuff. And it was 5 years. I'm done.
So you're done.
Yeah, I knew I was history.
Good for you. Yeah. So what has been the thing you've enjoyed the most, being now that you have this company, right? Menninger Associates, you've built the manager, you've built the associates, you've built the relationships. What has been your, I guess, call it your highlight, the thing you've enjoyed the most being where you are now?
There's a lot of things I enjoy about it. And that's why it's going to be difficult to actually retire. And I don't know that I'll ever 100% retire, although everybody around here will probably be waiting for that day. But sappy as it may sound, I like helping people.
Yeah.
I like coming up with really cool, nifty ideas that are going to save somebody a boatload of taxes. And I had one case where I saved somebody like $430,000 in taxes. He liked me for that, by the way. It's cool coming up with something really nifty, creative, coming up with this really cool idea that are going to help people succeed. It's really nice when you know you make a difference in people's lives. And I know we make a difference in people's lives all the time. And, not too long ago, and I tell this story, is that we had somebody coming in total distress. And after a couple hours at the end of the meeting, she broke down crying.
Wow.
Because the weight of the world just got lifted off of her shoulders.
Wow.
And it was so heartwarming to me.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like mentoring all of the new folks that we're bringing in. I love to teach. I love to train. I love teaching down at Temple. I love the training that we do, the case studies. I like the podcasts and the TV show that I've been doing all this time because it gives me the opportunity to convey and teach. And I really enjoy doing that.
And you can tell that people enjoyed the content itself. I mean, you can see the recent traction you've had with even this. So that's been incredible. So what would you tell someone based on your experience who's maybe considering switching, call it an industry into financial planning? What are some of the heartaches and the pain points that maybe you felt as you made that transition?
Tell you, the hardest thing getting into this industry is almost a total barrier for young folks. People graduate in college. It's very, very difficult because, most things in this industry, you generate revenue by managing assets or doing financial planning.
Yeah.
Okay. However you charge. The problem is if you're 23 years old, right out of school, who are the people that need you the most? Are people probably your parents' age who look at you and know that you're younger than their kid? How much credence are they going to give you? Not only that, they know that you don't have a lot of experience, whether it be life experience or work experience, you don't have a lot. For people getting into the industry at a younger age, I only encourage them to work under the tutelage of someone who has more experience. But be careful of that. You need somebody who is not greedy and wants to just have you do all the work and they reap the benefit.
Yeah.
Is someone
chew you out, spit you out type of thing. Correct.
Exactly. You want to really find somebody who's going to truly mentor you and help you grow. And, that's what I try to do around here. Somebody who's, call it middle-aged, because I moved into the industry when I was 35. I had a baseline of what they call a natural market, but I was not a salesman. I could not, would not, and just would not sell. I just wouldn't do that. And quite frankly, when I made the transition, I burned through all my assets and went deep into debt in the first 5 years simply because of the fact that I wasn't going to sacrifice my integrity of selling garbage or whatever the case may be.
Just for the sake of staying afloat.
Correct.
Yeah. So I want to make sure we touch this because I think this is the biggest thing that, I hear you talking about all the time. It's the CFP. What has that credential done for your career? What have you seen it done for your staff? To speak a little bit more about that,
It's funny you say that. So when I joined the industry in 2000, I said I wanted to put letters after my name. Said, let's go after the CFP. Little did I realize I picked the 3 stinking hardest letters in the alphabet. Although I will say the CFA is more difficult, but that's not financial planning.
Yeah, different beast.
And what I said, hey, I just want to put letters after my name. And if I learn something, cool.
Yeah, of course.
So little did I realize, and I set a goal for doing it in 3 years. And it was right around the 3-year mark that I came to the realization, it's almost 3 years. I haven't done it yet. It went fast track and I did it in a very short period of time. But I was amazed with how much I learned. And so the CFP required a very broad range of knowledge and pretty darn deep.
Yeah.
And also challenged you to be able to integrate all of the pieces. Because if you really understand each of the piece, every facet of financial planning impacts all of the others.
Oh, yeah.
And every one of them impacts each. So it's good to understand. So that's really what I built at this firm is I like to refer to our firm as a group of CFPs because I value the CFP designation more than any other designation in the industry, with the exception of the CFA. And I want everybody to have it because that's a demonstration of their knowledge and intelligence and their ability to pull it all together, because I want to provide the highest possible quality of advice to our clients.
Yeah. And so I kind of want to, in the little bit of time we have left, I kind of want to tap in a little bit more about just you as an individual. What would you say, what do you do outside of work? Although I would add, you're often not working.
Well, I know.
But in the time you have available to you, what do you do for fun?
Oh, God. First of all, I love sports. I love watching sports on TV. Basically name a sport. Well, maybe not all of them, but football.
The popular ones.
Yes, the popular ones. There you go. Baseball, football, certainly baseball, because I played it. My son played it. I coached it. I love the sports, but really, I really pick up intensity. I love competition.
Yes.
During the course of the season, you're just putting in time.
Playoffs.
Yeah,
that's where you're talking.
Right. So I really pick up my love of baseball. Really picks up late August, September.
Yeah.
Okay. Because now you're forming the playoffs and the divisions and the races and everything else like that. So I really enjoy the watching of the sports. I'd like to watch more movies, but every time I say, hey, I'd like to watch this movie, my wife says, I already saw it. So she's seen every movie that's ever been released. And she won't ever watch a movie twice, except if it's Sound of Music. But I do like movies.
Yeah.
Okay. I definitely like to play golf. I wish I was better. Okay.
Yeah. Don't you and your brother play at the tournament?
Yeah. We play a tournament every year at his tournaments. I love his member guest tournaments. My favorite tournament of the year. That's a lot of fun. So I like playing golf. I actually really enjoy the work that I do. And I do, as you know, a lot of work outside of the regular business hours, but it's because I like it. I like helping people. I like managing the business, and I just like doing it. So I'm involved in a lot of different activities. For years I was involved in youth sports. I'm a huge youth sport activity fan and supporter. People are like, why are you here watching my kids play? I'm telling you, I'm like, hey, you know what? I would rather there be somebody there that I know.
100%.
But I support, we got clients whose daughter is one of the top swimmers in the country as a 9th grader.
That's incredible.
So I hear, he's out at some meet with her, and I'm texting him saying, hey, you know what? How's she doing? What races she run?
Why not, right?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's interesting. So what type of legacy do you plan on leaving? You've worked, I would argue, incredibly hard your whole life, friends, right? And so eventually is going to come the day that you take a step back, or you do the things you enjoy more. What type of legacy do you plan on leaving with, Menninger Associates? What do you hope to get out of this?
I never really thought of it from leaving a legacy behind. So it's a very interesting question. I do know that if I wanted, I don't know if I should say this on TV, but I don't care because as well as I do, I say whatever's on my mind.
Exactly.
I could sell my business. This is something I say all the time. 95% of financial advisors retire by selling their business, and I could. And if I sold my business today, I'd have more money than I would ever need for the rest of my life. But I don't want to do that. What I'm trying to do is make sure that my clients are taken care of, and that all of the younger advisors and everybody who has been working here, I want to be able to mentor them into a position where they can take over the business. As you know, I've already begun the process of distributing my shares. Right now, we have 3 advisors who are also partners. The whole idea is to slowly pass my shares on to them, because then they're being rewarded for their loyalty and hard work to get to where they are.
Yeah.
Something that I wish I had that I didn't.
Yeah. You have to grind your teeth, truthfully.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm giving them the opportunity to reap the benefits that took me a lot more time and effort to get to, but I'm rewarding them for their efforts and loyalty. And, I don't want to let my clients down, because if I upped and left, what are they going to do? That's why I also set it up that every client has also a younger advisor, so that if with me, doesn't matter how big or small they are, so that if I retired in 10 years, then they have a relationship with that particular younger advisor for 10 years. And that younger advisor is no longer that young anymore.
This is true.
So that's my aspiration. As far as a legacy, I don't really know that I ever considered legacy. I mean, I know people who leave, and the moment they leave, they take their name off the door. I don't care if my name is on the door. But, if the branding works, then I would encourage them to change it from Menninger Associates to M&A or something like that, that they can keep the brand and transition it while I'm still here, because I don't have to have my name on the door. I never expected us to be 11 and now coming on 12 people in my company. Never expected it.
Talk a little bit about the space situation you had when you first got the first space, and then you moved.
Oh my goodness. Well, so I was in a partnership and that didn't work out. So I broke it off. We moved into a space that was 1,100 square feet. And at the end of 2 years, I was bursting at the seams and I wanted to expand. And the owner said, okay. And we had an agreement. He said, well, let me just run this by my realtor. That ruined it right there, because now the realtor said, well, I want a 5-year lease. I'm like, I don't want to do a 5-year lease. Just like I said 2 years ago, I have no idea where this is going to go.
Yeah.
I grew so fast, and basically they pushed me to look elsewhere. So I found the building that we're in now, beautiful building. I never even knew it existed 2 miles from my house, 3 miles from my house. Never even knew this existed. And so I moved from 1,100 to 1,850 square feet. And I was kicking and screaming because I wanted the 1,600 square feet, not 1,850.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
Yeah,
that's a big jump.
Huge jump.
Yeah.
So signed a 5-year lease, griping and kicking and screaming because I wanted the 1,600, not the 1,800. And so I'm in the 5-year lease. 2 years into the lease, I'm like, I was bursting at the seams. And so at 2.5, we basically came to an agreement. And here I am kicking and screaming. I have 4,600 square feet available for you. So I don't need 4,600 square feet. Guess what? I'm in 4,600 square feet. But the good news is that I was able to take part of the space and build a studio, which I used to go over to Jersey, which was once every 2 weeks, and I'd lose an entire day.
It was that 2-hour drive?
Right? Hour and 15 minutes, but filming a couple episodes burns you out.
Yeah.
So I would lose one day every 2 weeks. Here, it's right down the hall. So it gives me the ability to grab one of the associates or whatever and just do one.
Yeah.
And here's the scary part. Okay, we've been in this new space, the 4,600 square feet, for just shy of a year and a half. I already, 3 or 4 months ago, I don't know if you know this or not, I called the building owner. I'm like, hey, can I have my old space back? and obviously he's looking at me with this concern. I'm like, no, in addition to this space, because we're closing in on filling the space.
Yeah.
And if I were to ever have any smaller firm want to merge with me, which we've come close a few times, I would need more space.
Do you ever expect for your firm to grow as large as it did?
No, never did. But now that I'm at this point, I'm also a really good candidate for the 95% of the people who retire.
That's true.
I am a great candidate to be a buyer. And the reason is I've been told this by brokers, if that's the right word. Brokers, because I have what it takes. What I mean by that is I have a really good infrastructure with you as the operations manager, the office manager, and I've got a whole bunch of CFPs. And the good news is that I have a whole bunch of young ones, which basically means that an older person who's retiring, if they're going to hand over a business to somebody who's 60 years old, well, they're going to be in the same position in 10 years. My business succession story is also very appealing. How we do business, we don't sell. We are consultants, which is what I got out of the engineering industry. I serve as a consultant. We serve as consultants. Our philosophy of how we do business makes us a very attractive, not only how we do business, but the demographics of the people in our office and the fact that we're a group of CFPs makes us an extraordinarily attractive buyer for a seller.
For a small, yeah. Yeah. And so actually, can you speak about any time that you have merged or acquired another practice and kind of
Um, yeah,
what the transition was like?
I had one acquisition back in 2019. This is when I was about, it was about 20% of the size of my business. At the time, I was about $100 million assets under management, and he was about 20. We hit it off really well. He's a former veteran. I have my time. We
How'd
just
you
hit it off.
connect? How'd you guys meet?
We were introduced by a gentleman by the name of Ryan Hollenbach, who worked at our old firm,
Gotcha.
because he was connecting with someone else at the firm who did the bait and switch, and he was really angry and said, cut off that deal, and told the other guys, if you don't give me someone, I'm going somewhere else. And that's when he matched me up, and we hit it off really well. And I snagged it just like that, like shocked him. We met, and I said, all right, I'll buy it. And I said, we need to close in 6 weeks. And that was risky on my part, because I paid 100% up front.
Well, it seems to be your track record is you bet on yourself that you know you can do it and you're going to do it, right? It's not the first time, not the first rodeo.
Yeah. And about a year later, another guy who was retiring said, there's nobody I know that I would want to have handle my clients than you.
Wow.
That was a little tiny guy. I've had an opportunity to acquire a business that was almost my size. And that would have been about an hour and 15 minutes away up in Allentown. And to be perfectly honest with you, we went from 40 to made the first cut down to 15, made the second cut down to 10, made the finals to 3. And by the time it got all the way down to it, I didn't want it. I didn't want it because it was too big and I didn't feel I was capable of handling it. And in other words, I didn't think I would be able to, I was afraid I was going to bite off more than I can chew.
Yeah.
So in other words, either the people that I'm buying or my existing clients would have suffered. And as a result, we didn't win it, but the seller said, you're the group that I really wanted, but you're an hour and 15 minutes away. The one I grabbed is 10 minutes away. It's in town.
Gotcha. Yeah. So actually, I think that's a great point is, what have you done to increase your infrastructure at the, where we're at now to be able to handle some of those, acquisitions? What's that transition to build the infrastructure look like for you?
Well, what I've always done is I don't ever want my clients to suffer. As you know, I've met with probably 4 different coaches and supervisors and managers or whatever the case may be. And every single one of them said, for the size of your business, you have too many advisors. My answer back to them every single time is too bad, because I won't allow service to suffer.
Yeah.
And as long as we can provide good advice and above expectations in service, that's also why we have better than a 99.5% retention, and we continue to grow. I always try to stay ahead of it, because you never know when a potential acquisition could come. And if it does, I want to be able to handle it. And I'm always trying to take on new people to be able to support the existing advisors.
Yeah.
And we've hired 2 in the last couple of months. We've got another one who's going to be graduating soon. We'll just keep adding, and I'm thinking about adding more.
I'm going to at this rate.
Well,
and so, what would you say is the expectations that clients can get when they work, with you from coming from an engineering background and doing what you are now? Like, what they can expect in terms of the quality of work and kind of what we want to give our clients?
Well, it's a great question. What I always say is that what I bring to the table and what our firm brings to the table is, our firm is really an extension of my personality. My personality is I'm extremely detail oriented, whether that's, the chicken or the egg. Is that because that's how I am, or is that because the engineering and the science disciplines have taken me that way? But what I tell people is like, you know what? I think you would benefit from doing a comprehensive financial analysis. And basically, we don't leave any stone unturned. And so what ends up happening is we go through an extraordinary amount of detail in evaluating everything else. That's one piece. We're extremely detail oriented. Secondly is I believe wholeheartedly in teaching. Okay. I believe education and knowledge are powerful. So that's why a lot of my meetings are over 3 hours. And people, I get complaints or criticism of that. And guess what? For the same reason I have too many people is the same answer I give, too bad. That's what I do.
I love when people say, oh, how am I going to be engaged for that amount of time? And at the end, 3 hours goes by like that.
Right. And they
Yeah.
didn't realize a 3.5 hour meeting this morning. So, I always want to teach, and trust me when I tell you, you can keep the clients engaged when you're talking about their stuff and you're teaching them and it's about their stuff. People realize very quickly with us that we're not there to make money on them. We're there to help.
Yeah.
I mean, we demonstrate that because right out of the gates, they can trust us.
Yeah.
Because we're concerned about doing what's best for them, and they see that. I mean, we're required to do that as fiduciaries, but we truly take a fiduciary role in our heart. And so they get the detail oriented, they get the teaching aspect of it. And I am really, a pet peeve of mine is rapid responsiveness to people when they call, email, or whatever, especially if it has anything to do with their money.
Yeah.
So I believe too, service sells. If you provide good advice and good service at a reasonable rate, and by the way, fee is only an issue in the absence of value.
Yeah.
If you always provide all of those things, there's no reason anybody would ever leave. And that's why we're able to have the retention ratio that we have.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be working. And actually, I kind of want to continue diving a little deeper into this, but we've talked about client service and when it comes to the actual financial planning, but you do a lot of call it extracurricular here at the firm, the charity golf outing, the barbecue we're doing today
that we're late for. Okay.
What made you want to do those types of events? How has that been for you? How do you feel like your clients have reacted to those events?
Oh, they love them. It's a way of giving back to the community. It's a way of being able to interact with your clients in a social setting. Both of us in a social setting. And it's just giving back to the clients, giving back to the community, and actually having fun with the staff.
Yeah.
Because as you know, we have meetings at the estate and just peel off and go back to the house and do all kinds of silly games and stuff.
Yeah, our golf outings, I always say it's my favorite day in the office.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, as long as it's nice out.
Yeah. And so, you typically, you typically pick a charity, you bring a bunch of golfers and
Correct.
just, you raise funds and
no shortage of work that goes into it, but we spend the whole day. We spend probably about 3 months. My business development guy, Mark, and marketing, Chris Gonzalez, does a terrific job pulling it together. Okay, we all kind of take different pieces. He does all of the planning for it. I do the planning on the golf side, as well as getting the sponsors.
Yeah,
because I've got a lot of contacts.
You got the connections and the relationships.
That's correct.
100%. Yeah.
And I also do not play the golf. Okay. None of us play in the golf, because one of the things that I say, if I golfed, I will see 3 people all day, and it's the 3 people that I'm playing with. What I intentionally do is I plant myself on one hole. And by doing so, I create some little gimmicky thing, beat the host, closest to the pin on a par 3.
Yeah.
But what I do is, by planting myself in one location, I get to see and thank every person that goes through there that day. And say, thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting the charity. Glad you came, et cetera, et cetera.
And you let all the clients win, obviously.
No such thing. By the way, I had a supervisor. That was the joke. You're like, oh yeah, you got to let the boss win when you're playing in racquetball. No. You don't let anybody win at anything. But I will tell him after I'm done, when I whoop his ass, but I am tired.
There it is. So you mentioned earlier you have a son who was, he was involved in sports and in little leagues and plays baseball. How many, is he local? Does he?
No, unfortunately he's in California, and my daughter's in Phoenix. And I don't think either of them are interested in the business. First of all, I couldn't afford my son. He's a software engineer. He's doing really well for himself. I couldn't afford him.
Part, right?
Yeah, right. Is it the personality, or is it the is it innate, or is it learned? I don't think that they would ever really want to be in the business. Maybe my son would, but he's probably not ready for it. And not only that, but I'll be undermining all of the other partners here.
Do you find that they come to you often for financial planning questions, or are they almost because
My son
you're
does. My son does, and he's smart. He's one of the 3 smartest people I know. Um, he asks me questions, and I also, when I talk to him about stuff, I know he does things on his own, and gosh darn it, as smart as he is, he does things wrong, okay? And, hate to say it, but a lot of our clients do things wrong. You want to be nice about it, but they do things wrong too.
Yeah, that's
And,
funny.
you politely show him how he could have done it better.
I get that. No, I get that. I get that.
He's made mistakes and he knows it. He said, darn it, I made a mistake. I didn't know that.
Actually, he recently gave you a new title. You want to speak on the grandson?
Oh, yeah, grandpa.
Yeah,
I
how
know.
is that?
I know, that's
You know,
good.
I know you've flown out to see him,
Not enough.
but
Not enough.
how has that transition been? I mean, that's a new life chapter
It is.
that you're there.
It is, but I still haven't figured out. I still haven't acclimated myself to being a grandfather because I'm not old enough to be a grandfather.
Not enough.
But it's good, but I just wish they were closer because
Right.
I'm not getting
California's
the opportunity. Yeah, it is. And with running the business, et cetera, it's just hard with the distance. You basically lose a day going out and a day coming back.
Not to mention the beat up on the travel.
Oh,
Traveling will.
Oh, especially coming back from
Yeah.
California.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Phoenix is not as bad because to go to Santa Barbara, it is 2-legged trip. Phoenix is 4 hours.
Yeah,
Four and a
because you
half.
can do what?
Right, it's direct.
Straight shot.
Yeah, it's direct.
Yeah. Do you go out to Phoenixville a lot as well, or would you find that based now that your firm has kind of grown and has a lot of infrastructure, do you find that you have more flexibility to be able to?
I have more flexibility, but I don't seem to take it well enough. I do know that, especially with the advent of Zoom and everything else, it gives the ability to work remotely.
Yeah.
I'm doing that more. I mean, as you know, I'm on vacation. Okay. What vacation means is that I'm only working 40 hours this week and I'm at Cancun. It gives me the ability to do that more. And I think that's how I'm going to transition out, is to spend less time in the office. But knowing I can do that gives me the ability to go out and do that. I'll probably find myself going to California more during the winter months when it's crummy here and nice there, as opposed to the summer.
It's called good planning.
Well, yeah. I mean, the problem is to be honest with you, I hate to say this, but I try to work it around the golf tournaments.
Well, that's what you enjoy doing, and so the question they all want to know is, what's your handicap?
Oh my God, it's too high. My handicap, if I'm holding the golf club, the handicap starts from the grips and goes up. I am the handicap. I'm a 13.1 right now.
I don't play golf, so I couldn't tell you what I am.
Yeah, right.
But, so have you always played golf growing up, or was that something you picked? Because some people pick it up because of business. It's a great networking tool. And
actually,
so I'm curious.
my wife criticizes me of that. I don't do it for business. Actually, the irony of it is that, so I played golf with my golf partners, friends of ours. And so I come home, my wife asked me, did you ask Dan about that? I'm like, no. Did you ask him about that? No. Did you talk to him about that? I'm like, no. Did you talk to him about that? I'm like, no. What are you talking about on a golf course? Golf. How can you talk about golf all the time?
Right in front of you.
Because we're talking about the shot you're about to hit, the shot that you just hit.
And the shot that you should have hit.
And the shot that you should have hit. And, so next thing you know, all of a sudden, then you're at the next hole, and then who won and who lost and who's driving first and who's.
Yeah.
And so it's all about golf. So I took up golf when I was a kid. I will tell you that it ruined my baseball game and baseball ruined my golf game. So
the translation wasn't entirely.
No, it ruined it. So they say, oh, you got a baseball swing when I golf. And then it screwed up my baseball swing and everything else like that. But any good golfer or good baseball player will tell you it's the same swing on a different plane, which means clearly I've been doing it wrong all my life.
So actually, that's a good point. Do you play with your wife?
I do. I taught her. I rolled her into playing a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. She wouldn't play in front of other people. I'm like, well, that doesn't give me much opportunity. Then she was willing to play with Dan, who, first of all, she would yell at me if I made any type of criticism or suggestion. But if he suggested, it was okay. Right?
Well, that's because
right. Trust me, I know it. I know it. Then the pro at the club had said, hey, you know what? Why don't you try out this Wednesday night ladies thing? I don't want to play in front of other people. I said, no, 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 it's very relaxed. And then she started to do it. And all of a sudden, now she's getting out there a lot. Now she was willing to chat. Oh, there's no question she plays more than me. That's not a question. Okay. And so then she got into the more serious one on Tuesdays. And so, yeah, she's playing a lot. And I think it's good because then if we go away, and if they have golf there, we'll take our clubs and stuff like that.
Is there a golf course that stands out to you from the travel that you've done, whether for work or to see your kids?
Yes.
Any golf course?
There's a few. As a kid, as a college student, I played Bethpage Black, which, what the heck is that?
I was just at
Right. Don't worry about it. People who are golfers know what Bethpage Black is because in 2000, it was the very first time ever that the U.S. Open for pros was held at a public course.
Oh, wow.
And
has it done that since then? I don't know.
It went back to 2009 again.
Wow.
Okay. And that course took me to my knees. I thought I was good until I played that course. Then I played a course called the Stadium Course, which is at the Waste Management Open. That's a really cool, beautiful course. Then we went to it this past year. It was really fun going to a PGA tournament, but this was just out of control. It's like a frat party. And I was like, this isn't like what you think of with PGA golf.
Funny.
And then I played St. Andrews. That was actually call it an outing. It was a rewards trip when we were in Scotland and played St. Andrews. And it's considered the original first golf course.
Wow.
So it has some lore around it.
I never knew that you traveled so much. So you've been to Scotland. You said you were...
That was a business trip.
Still went though.
Oh, I know. It was cool.
You know, I think you mentioned Ireland earlier for...
Ireland was a business trip because I had two other guys on my team, and they had GE had 3 different project sites.
That was one of them?
I took Ireland. I took Ireland and the one up in the Poconos.
So where have you traveled anywhere else outside of those places? Well, outside of that country, I mean, I'm sure you've been in the States.
I like the Caribbean. I like the water of the Caribbean and the temperatures and just so if I ever travel, it's usually sort of in the Caribbean. I was supposed to do a rewards trip to Monaco.
Oh, wow.
And I was pumped about that. So it was the year after Scotland. It was Wednesday to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, all right, let's go. We're going to go to Rome Saturday to Wednesday. Right. And so the Monaco trip was paid for.
Yeah.
Okay. And the flights were paid for because it was a rewards trip. And then we had everything booked. The only thing I had to pay for is the flight from Rome to Monaco and my stay in Rome, of which my wife had points at Marriott, and I had flight points. The trip was free in April of 2020. Got canceled.
I was going to say, yeah.
Got canceled 2 weeks beforehand. That's the biggest bummer.
Have you thought about ever going back?
Absolutely. I keep thinking about it. And we didn't go this year because this is the year. I forgot the name of it. There's a term for it. It's the Catholic thing. It's every 25 years. And it was this year. Everybody goes to Rome. And then with the Pope dying and everything else like that, we decided Jubilee. It's the Jubilee. And we decided we'll just go, but not this year.
Gotcha.
So it is. It's.
I'm sure it's beautiful.
I'm sure.
I remember one of the associates went there one time. Azrita.
Oh, yeah.
Monaco.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So would you consider yourself an avid traveler at this point in time? Or
No. Not an avid traveler.
I'll just make sure to give you clients out.
No. I'm not an avid traveler. I mean, I just like going away. If I'm going to go away, I'd like to go away to an island where it's nice. I like warm weather. I like beautiful water.
Yeah.
Okay. Therefore, send me to the islands in the Caribbean. That's my place to go. But I still would like to go to Italy. I have actually been to Germany before as well.
Was that a work trip as well?
No, that wasn't. That was with my mother, my kids, and my brother and all that.
It's a good time.
Yeah, it was nice.
Awesome.
So, all right. I think we're out of time here, my friend.
Think so. Though it's been good, honestly, getting to know some things that even I didn't know. So, get to know the behind the CFP, behind the professionalism, who is the real Mike Menninger.
Yeah, well, by the way, here's the other thing, too, that most people don't know about me. I'm shy.
Find that hard to believe.
Anyway, all right. So I'll wrap up the show. Thank you. Now I got forced into doing this and everything else like that. That's me. I mean, I'm pretty straightforward, wide open. I'm a simple guy that my wife doesn't believe it. But I hope you enjoyed it and you got a little taste of who I am.
Pleasure.
And I hope you have a great day and enjoy. And thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching this episode of Financial Planning Explained. We strive to provide an educational experience for all of our viewers, and what we struggle with at times is topics. So if there's an idea or a topic that you would like for us to discuss on a future episode, please email us at admin@maaplanning.com, or you may enter it on the Contact Us page on our website at www.maaplanning.com. Thank you in advance for participating and helping make our show successful.